Hello, my friends. And today we'll start with Rutte, discussing how many troops Russia is losing each month.
By the way, let's not forget that the Russians at the moment are losing massive amounts of their soldiers thanks to the Ukrainian defense, the staunch Ukrainian defense. In months, this is 20 to 25,000 Russians dead. I'm not talking seriously wounded, killed, dead. 20 to 25,000 a month. When you compare that to the Afghan war in the 1980s, they lost 20,000 in 10 years. Now they lose these amounts and more in 1 month. So that's also unsustainable on their side. But
at the same time, they still don't want to help the armed force of Ukraine by providing long-range missiles and many other things that are critically needed on the front line today. Now, let's move on to the situation at the front and start with the Sumy direction. For now, things remain quiet here. There are no new assaults and the front line is stable. But in the Kharkiv direction, the situation remains difficult due to constant shelling, even though the Russians are not launching new assaults. For now, the front line remains unchanged. In the Vovchansk area, the situation is much worse. The Russians have managed to advance closer to the village of Ternova and Haravske. As of today, they are actively assaulting these villages and trying to push forward. As we can see, they advancing from different sides of the river. Accordingly, if they manage to move further in the area of Ternova, they will be able to get closer to Kharkiv. For now, however, the fighting continues and we're waiting to see how events will develop further. At the same time, along the border, the Russians have also managed to move forward and seize a significant amount of territory near the village of Kruhle and Dykhtiarne. Fighting for these villages is still ongoing, but the situation here has sharply deteriorated. In the Veliki Burluk direction, the Russians are attempting to break through toward Obukhivka, but over the past day they have made no gains and the front line there remains stable. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians have managed to move closer to Kurylivka. Today they assault in Petropavlivka and Peshane. At the same time, the Ukrainian forces continue to actively eliminate Russian forces. As a result, the Ukrainian military is also using fiber optic drones in this area and maintaining control over Russian logistics. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Borivska and Andriivka. Overall activity here has decreased again and the front line remains unchanged. In the Liman direction, the Russians are not reducing their activity and are trying to break through directly to the outskirts of Liman. They are also assaulting Stavky, Drobyshevo and Novoselivka and pushing beyond Ritkodub. However, over the past day, there have been no new changes in this area. In the Sloviansk area, the changes are very significant, although the advance is slow. The Russians have managed to push through almost the entire front line. They are now assaulting Zakitne from two directions. They are also pushing further beyond Dronivka, assaulting Riznikivka, and advancing through open fields past Vasyukivka, where they have already managed to entrench themselves. As a result, the front line is steadily moving closer to Sloviansk. If measured from Ozerne, the distance to the outskirts is about 16 kilometers, and if from Vasyukivka area, about 19 kilometers. Overall, the distance is already quite small. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians are assaulting Protechine, the outskirts of Kostiantynivka, Pleshiyivka and Stepanivka, and are pushing beyond Ivanopilya and Rusin Yar. At the same time, Ukrainian forces soldiers report new problems. The Russians have managed to seize a strong point located directly near the highway. This gives them a tactical advantage, control over access routes, the ability to put pressure on our logistics, and a convenient foothold for further maneuvers. From this same area, movements toward Ilyinka have been observed, with the Russians attempting to probe the defenses, enter in small groups, and gradually build up their presence. The situation here is difficult, but our units are operating at maximum capacity, slowing the Russian momentum, cutting down the ability to rapidly exploit success and buying time. At the same time, Russian forces are trying to expand their zone of control southwest of Stepanivka. The main tactic is advancing through ravine systems using the difficult terrain for concealed movement and flanking our positions. The objective is obvious: to slip into populated areas without frontal assaults, destabilize defenses from the flanks, and create a threat of further opening up the direction. This situation is particularly tense northeast of Yablonivka. A forested area remains there where our forces are still holding. The risks of this area were warned about earlier, and now the Russians are entering a phase of intensified pressure. They will actively use artillery, drones, and assault groups, trying to either to force our fighters out or cut off their withdrawal routes. At the same time, assaults on Bereztok are not stopping. Attacks are being carried out systematically, aimed at wearing down the defense and identifying weak points. The overall picture in this direction is complex and tense. The Russians are trying to apply pressure at several points, simultaneously stretching our forces. Despite this, our fighters are holding their ground, containing the Russians, and trying to stabilize the situation while operating under intense pressure and a constant threat of further expansion of the gray zone. In the Dobropillia direction, the Russians have once again managed to advance closer to Kurylivka. As a result, they are gradually approaching the village of Zoloty Kolodys again and are effectively returning to positions they had previously managed to capture. This indicates that everything is moving toward an upcoming battle for the Dobropillia. At the same time, the Russians are assaulting Sofiivka, Nikhanorivka, and Kurylivka with FPV drones being used very actively. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians continue to assault Rodinske as before, but are still unable to take full control of the settlement. Russian forces are also continuing attempts to advance along the western flank, but without success over the past day. The situation there has remained unchanged. In the Novopavlivka direction, the Russians are assaulting Filia, but the level of activity is low and there have been no changes over the past day. In the direction of the settlement of Pokrovsk in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russians are attempting to break through in the area of the village of Verbove. However, the situation there has also stabilized for now, with no changes recorded. In the Huliaipole direction, the Russians are breaking through in the area of the village of Radisne, assaulting Nove Zaporizhzhia, pushing past Varvarivka, and fighting is ongoing for Huliaipole itself. A large number of shelling attacks continues here, and the Russians intend to advance quickly. As before, they are carrying out around 40 assaults per day. Ukrainian forces describe this situation as follows. The Russians are trying to break through our defensive line along the Haichur River, north of the city. Recently, the Russians infiltrated all surrounding villages in small groups, although their main forces were stopped. Cleanup operations are still ongoing. To a large extent, the outcome of these battles will determine the final fate of Huliaipole. Huliaipole itself will soon cease to exist as a city due to total destruction. The fate of the city is most likely already clear, unfortunately. However, how many more losses the Russians will suffer and where they will be more or less stopped will determine what happens to the Orikhiv flank. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians have also managed to entrench themselves in new positions, and they have advanced quite significantly toward the village of Lukianivske. According to Russian claims, they have already captured it, although the Ukrainian side hasn't yet confirmed this information. At the same time, the Russians are assaulting Prymorske, where virtually the entire village is now in the gray zone. So the situation here is also gradually worsening, and the front line is moving closer to Zaporizhzhia. In the Kherson direction, activity remains low. There was one attack over the past day, and the Russians have failed to break through to the right bank. Meanwhile, Trump continues to state that help for Iran is already on the way, and very soon we will find out what this means. This morning, you said that help is already on the way to Iran. What did you mean by that? You'll have to figure out that yourself. I'm sorry. So, well, everything is obvious, even without a direct answer. So maybe the United States will attack Iran. Friends, what do you think about this? Be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. It's also reported that due to the tariffs Trump imposed on countries trading with Iran, the trade truce between the United States and China could come to an end. Trump's announcement of new tariffs against countries trading with Iran could derail the US China trade truce. Trump said that any country doing business with Iran will face a 25% tariff on all trade with the United States. The measure takes effect immediately. This directly affects China, the largest buyer of Iranian oil and a key partner of Tehran. The risk of escalation comes amid agreements reached by Trump and Xi Jinping a year ago, when the sides froze the tariff war and the US gained access to rare earth metals. China controls a significant share of global production and has previously used export restrictions as a pressure tool. Beijing called Trump's threats coercion and said it's ready to take measures to protect its interests. Analysts know that the new tariffs could call into question not only the truce with China, but also Trump's plans to visit Beijing, while increasing instability in global oil markets. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.